Hi, I'm Nicole Hashke, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to turn your yarn from this to something that's a little less like this. Yes, I'm going to show you how I untangle yarn. So last night I was working on a project. I was working on one of my knitted Afghan squares, and I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but my yarn became like that. So I'm not sure I've ever actually seen a video that demonstrates how one might go about untangling yarn. So I thought I would go ahead and show how I do it. Obviously every yarn tangle is going to be a little different, but I thought I'd go ahead and demonstrate some of the basic principles anyway behind untangling yarn. So let me go ahead and pause this for a second, grab my yarn, and I'll also turn around the video camera obviously so you can see my yarn, and we'll get started. Alright, so here is my very tangled yarn. The first thing you want to do when you have a big old tangled mess like this is you want to find one of the yarn ends. Now obviously one of my yarn ends is actually kind of buried in my knitting. So I found the other one. Now I've actually already started winding the yarn into this center pull ball, so obviously I have my end secure in here. Obviously that's the other end right there. One thing that I definitely recommend is when you're untangling yarn, go ahead and start creating a ball as soon as possible. And the reason I say this is because when you need to, basically the process of untangling yarn is going to be traveling with the yarn through all the various paths that it will take you on. And if you wind it into a ball, that's going to be a much simpler process. And it will help keep the yarn from retangling, which is a persistent problem when you're trying to untangle yarn. It just kind of naturally wants to revert back to tangling. So what I'm doing right here is I'm again kind of traveling with this end of yarn here to see where it is. So here is where this particular strand of yarn is going. It's going right kind of into this hole. So what I'm going to do is I am going to stretch out this hole, so to speak, so that my little ball of yarn will go through it. And so I'm just gradually sort of teasing it out here. This yarn is acrylic. If you have a yarn such as cotton, this might be a little bit more difficult because it won't have as much stretch. But I have untangled cotton yarn before, and usually it might take a little longer to kind of tease it out and kind of make that gap a little larger, but you can usually still do it even if it takes a little bit more time. So now I'm just going to, I found right here where that yarn, where that strand goes, it goes kind of into this little abyss right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass my ball of yarn here right through, and there. And now I have another spot right here, and once again I'm teasing this apart to make it larger. Again, you can see how much easier that is with this yarn because it is a nice stretchy acrylic. Sorry, my throat is not staying clear on me this morning. So there, I've passed it through that bit right here, and now we've got yet another abyss. This one is actually not as bad as I thought it was at first. So I don't even have to do much teasing, so that I can just pass right through there. And you see what I'm doing? I'm really just following the trail of the yarn under and over and over and under and under and over. And again, I'm going to continue winding the yarn, excuse me, into this ball as much as I can, just to make sure it stays together and doesn't get retangled. Alright, so I see I've got another big old clump of yarn here, so I'm just going to put, the other thing that's nice about making it into a ball is you can just kind of set it aside while you maybe do some digging like I'm about to do now. Okay, again, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought, so in we go. And, oh, that's not so bad. It looked, a lot of times, one of the wonderful things, I don't know if you can ever really call tangled yarn a wonderful thing, but a lot of times when you actually start digging through a pile of yarn like this, oftentimes you'll find it's really not as bad as you thought it was. Now, there are certainly times when it's going to be just as bad as it looks, and then you're just going to have a little bit more patience. But you might be pleasantly surprised to find just how often a tangle of yarn is not really as bad as you think, or it's not as severely tangled, or it's not as tightly tangled. This yarn, I'm actually quite lucky because it's really not at all tightly tangled. But again, patience is very important when you're untangling yarn. If you want to save the unbroken yarn, the unbrokenness of the yarn, let's put it that way. See right here, I've got actually quite a long strand of yarn here, so I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause and rewind the yarn here on the ball. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, if you don't have time to dedicate to untangling yarn, I am a very strange individual who actually enjoys untangling yarn. I find it, especially if I'm already working on a knitting project and maybe I'm at a part that seems like it's going on forever, untangling yarn actually feels like a little bit of a break to me. But not everyone is as strange as I am, or perhaps you literally just don't have the time to sit with yarn and untangle it, and that's, you know what, that's fine. That's totally fine. You might just need to cut the yarn, maybe do a couple Russian joins. I should do a video on Russian joins. You know what, maybe that'll be my next Facebook Live. Haha. I think, you know what, wow, that's a great idea. You get to experience my coming up with an idea for a Facebook Live in real time. How about that? Alright, so I'm going to do some more winding. Oh, I didn't need to do that much winding because, whoa, hello, look at this. That is a fun tangle right there. Alright, so let's loosen this up. Pass through. Oh my, look at that there abyss. That's fun times right there. Alright, let's see here. Pass that through, and I feel like I'm getting closer to the end, but the tangle is getting worse somehow. I mean, it's a smaller tangle, but the tangle itself is worse somehow. It's crazy how that's working. Alright. Here we go. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there. I feel like I'm seeing an end to the abyss, perhaps, possibly. Yes, I'm actually going to I'm just going to keep the camera rolling until I completely untangle and wind up this yarn, just so you can see that it's possible. Whoa! Oh, frack, I just dropped my yarn! Oh no. Hang on just a second. I think I'm just going to pause my recording here, just for a minute. Okay, I'm back. I retrieved my ball of yarn. I didn't really think you'd necessarily want to watch me diving after the ball. Okay, so hopefully I don't drop it again. My ball of yarn is very messy, by the way. I don't tend to put a lot of stock in neatness when I'm winding yarn. I would put a lot more stock in it if I had an actual ball winder, which I don't. I want to get one someday, just because it looks like fun. I've seen them do it in yarn shops, and it looks like so much fun. But I just haven't gotten around to getting my own yet. There's some actually very inexpensive ones, which is pretty cool. Not that I recommend you use a ball winder, a mechanical or an electric ball winder. I think they have electric ball winders. Anyway, I don't necessarily recommend that you use one for this purpose. It's just not a good idea. Hand winding, you have way more control. Okay, this is a fun one right here. Let me show you. This is nice and tangled. This is the yarn I'm untangling, and yeah, it's nice and tangled. So I have to, oh my! Here's another one of those abysses I like to talk about. Let's see. There we go. That actually came open much better than I thought it would. Oh, look at that. That unraveled quite nicely. Sorry, I keep... There we go. Keep getting my yarn untangling out of the frame. Alright. Again, patience is the biggest key to untangling yarn. And look at this. This is actually starting to look manageable again. I mean, obviously there's still work to be done, but we're almost there. I wasn't actually, to be honest, I wasn't actually sure how well it would work for me to untangle yarn completely on video. I thought maybe I was going to take too long and finally say, well, that's how I do it, but I think I might actually be able to untangle all of this on video. I've just totally jinxed myself, haven't I? Most likely. Alright, let's see here. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. This might work. We're getting there. A word of advice. Please do not make... How many times does Nicole say we're getting there into a drinking game? You'll suffer alcohol poisoning, I'm quite sure of it. Alright. Where are we now? Oh my goodness. Honestly, at times like this, yarn feels like it is alive and it is mischievous. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking, how in the world did all this happen? I would love some scientist out there to explain, and it probably takes a physicist, to explain why yarn gets tangled so easily. I mean, some of the things that this yarn, some of the ways that this yarn has tangled is simply blowing my mind. I cannot figure out how the yarn got into these kinds of positions. Uh-oh, my needle got caught in the tangled yarn. Stay back there, needle. Excuse me. You can see, since this is attached to my knitting, this is the main reason why I took on this untangling, is because it was hampering my ability to knit my square. Oh, look at that. I think it's all untangled now. Yes, it is. Look at that. We're done. We are untangled. Awesome. Yes, indeed. It is untangled. And there you have it. That's all there is to it. I say that like it's so easy. It's not always easy. Like I mentioned, I was lucky. That was not the worst tangle I've ever seen by a long shot. So, but that's the basic idea behind it. You really just, again, you need to get a yarn end, roll it into a ball as you're untangling. Just keep track of where that yarn end is going. Be willing to do some digging, be willing to pass under, pass through, pass over, do some untwisting. If you're patient and you're determined, you can untangle even some pretty serious yarn tangles. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you the confidence to untangle yarn the next time you get into a tangle. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye.